December 2nd, 2023. Well, the Republicans have pulled another stupid move, in my opinion, here with the expulsion of George Santos. And now, well, as everybody says, nobody's trying to give a good recommendation for him, considering that he's in deep legal trouble and probably would have eventually be convicted of multiple crimes. But to me, at this point in time, particularly, I don't see the rationale of expelling him right now. I mean, we haven't got the budget done. We have some important votes coming up. And the fact of the matter is, we didn't expel him, let's say, months ago. So what's the big rush to do it now? I mean, does anybody really think the Republican Party is going to get a little bit of a positive review for this? Like, oh wow, how noble of them! They expelled one of their own members, only having a 5-vote majority. I mean, that's you know, or whatever. That's really stupid of those people, actually, but not smart. And meanwhile, the Democrats have a guy who was in the Senate who's taking bribes from Egypt in terms of gold bars. We've got another guy who was given who tried to disrupt the congressional proceeding by pulling the fire alarm. However, the DOJ went soft on him and just made it a misdemeanor. No big problem for him there, right? And then we have these other people out there advocating for a terrorist group, and we have to expel one of our own members at a relatively, well, I would think, somewhat of an inconvenient time. At least that's my read on it. And especially giving in a New York district, that you would have to ask yourself, well, what is the probability of actually winning that district back in a special election? And that's kind of another issue here. But this kind of falls on the wake of kicking out uh, Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, only to get this current Speaker Johnson in there, who is not a bad guy, but obviously he's not a powerful speaker. I mean, even though he was going to vote against the expulsion there, he couldn't seem to bring enough of his own people there to at least, they did have the option of voting present and therefore holding it below the 2/3 majority required, but still letting the people that feel they had to express their moral outrage do so. Apparently, the New York congressional delegation of Republicans is particularly nervous because of the local press about this guy and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm talking about Santos, of course. But I mean, but as far as McCarthy, I mean, that was really flat out stupid. I don't see any gain in that whatsoever. I mean, they were mad at him because of their inability to get together to pass the bills they needed to pass. When he went with a continuing resolution, then they had to get rid of him. Except that now the new guy has gone with a continuing resolution. So it seems to me that this is going to be really more and more difficult to campaign for these guys. And of course, the real reason to campaign for them is the alternative is a lot worse. The Democrats, who are a lot worse in every way, both ethically and in terms of practical politics. But if you like these videos, please give me a like. I'm looking for more subscriptions. Gotta get those numbers up. And of course, if you want notification, you can click the bell there. Yeah, so I guess that's that. We'll have to see what happens. I guess one of the big considerations, of course, is when there is a special election, do the Republicans have any chance of winning it? Well, I guess he's from, as I understand, a Long Island district, and we have had some successes in some of the local elections in that area in the last, a month ago, thereabouts, and that was sort of surprising, but given the situation there with all the crime in the New York area, with all the immigrants that are putting stresses on the system, and all this to do with the Democrats, I think a good, strong candidate that wages an effective campaign, stays away from the social issues as much as possible and focuses on the crime and the all the illegal immigrants that they're bringing in. I think maybe they have a chance of winning. And So, but we'll have to, that's one of the things that'll be interesting to see. I will say they'll be a little less stupid if they actually manage to win the special election, but the general perception is they probably won't, and we'll have to. But it's going to cost us money we wouldn't have had to spend anyhow. Where if we'd have, kept them around at least until the eve of the general election, would be too late to have a special election. Maybe we could have ditched them next year. Anyhow, so it is. On the other hand, back to the Middle East, it looks like the ceasefires finally broke down and Israel's back into operation again. I hear that they're laying down some bombs on Khan Yunis, which apparently a lot of the Hamas leadership fled to when things got a little hot in the northern area. So we'll have to see how this all works out. We could initially considering seeing a bit of a jittery Biden administration on the subject, given that there's a big split in the Democrat constituency over this subject, and I think that well, it's a very difficult issue. I think a lot of this stuff. Sometimes I watch this Judge Napolitano show. These guys are really out there. I think they're kind of on this one. They're kind of joining the anti-Semite crowd a little bit. Because my opinion is what Israel's doing there is it really that much different than the kind of things we did in Iraq, for instance? I mean, somebody was criticizing making a comparison to World War II, but you don't have to go back to World War II. What about Iraq? I mean, I don't think that Israel's directly trying to bomb civilians as such. It's just that they're so commingled, it's hard to get them apart. And frankly, it's also hard for the civilians to get out of the way, too. I mean, it's such a crowded area when you got a terrorist intermixed. So we'll have to see how this goes. It looks like that, as I predicted, it doesn't look like that Turkey turned out to really do anything. I said that these countries are not going to do much because they're equipped largely with American weapons, just like Israel is. And just like we can exert influence over Israel, we can also exert influence over them if they were to really go active. So I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't really see a truly victorious end to this thing simply because of the difficulty. I mean, some of the people yelling about genocide, but obviously genocide is out of the question. That Israel's not going to do that. And by the meaning of what genocide really means would be like attempting to kill off large percentages of the population deliberately. That's, if anything, they're trying to avoid that. But the problem still is, at the end of the day, as they say, what are we going to be left with? A lot of homeless Palestinians in the Gaza Strip? I mean, I don't know. The best thing I think could be done if we could find some way to basically evacuate them from that area, or most of them, and get them somewhere else, like some other Arab country or countries that could take them in. But of course, deep down, all the Arab countries have this whole ultimately push the Jews into the sea kind of thing that they have going on. So no matter how much they engage in diplomatic relationships, whenever violence breaks out, they're back to the old 1948 thinking, and which of course is what's put the Palestinians in the shape they're in right now. I mean, if they'd have won back in 48, they wouldn't be having the problem they got. They'd be running their own country, and it'd be a one-state solution theirs. But since they lost, and they continue to cause trouble, I mean, it's an endless problem, which I don't see a real solution for, actually. At least not a solution that would involve a lot of suffering for somebody. So at any rate, that's ongoing, and although the administration seems wobbly, they have a problem. They got a lot of their voter base, let's say the lower end of their voter base, is upset with the activity, but the higher end of it, which certainly there's a lot of Jewish money, I'm pretty sure, that goes into the Democrat Party, given it's about 2/3, that demographic supports the Democrats in the elections. Can they afford to lose that money? Can they replace it? So that they're kind of in a jam, along with a somewhat enfeebled presidential candidate, and well, whatever. So that's something we have to see how it plays out. But again, the edge they have is that Trump is about to see some of the results of the Democrat lawfare that they've been waging against him. I mean, the trial, the trial is going to take $250 million out of his hide, and New York is, I think, nearing an end, and so this is going to be where the pain starts to begin, I think, in a real sense. Um, and of course he'll appeal it, and who knows how that'll turn out. And if he can eventually get it to a high enough court, maybe the Supreme Court, maybe, or some other court that would be principled, maybe he could eventually get that reversed. But then we go on to the next big event, which of course will be the D.C. Trial about the January the 6th thing, which is, in my opinion, complete garbage. But that one's going to be bad news, I think, as I've pointed out in previous videos. I know nobody wants to hear it, but I welcome anybody's comment to say, okay, how does he stop it? How does he get out of this? How does he defeat this setup that they've got in D.C.? I don't see it. And then, well, so anyway, we'll hope for the best on that. Then we have the DeSantis-Newsom debate, which I'll kind of finish up with that. Well, I don't know, everybody, it seems like at least the conservatives think it is a win for DeSantis. And I guess I would tend to agree with that. I mean, watching it, I was kind of wincing, but, you know, but basically it all comes down to DeSantis presented a pretty good case factually, and Newsom just lied all over the place and acted like a complete jackass. So if being a jackass appeals to you, then I suppose that you'd think that Newsom won. But if the facts appeal to you, I guess DeSantis won. I haven't heard from Trump on this. I thought he would opine on it. Maybe I missed that. Or maybe it'll come out in a day or so, what he thinks about that debate. But the big thing is, I think that, to me, I think Hannity kind of lost control of the debate. If you're going to have a debate with somebody like Newsom in it, you need to have really hard rules about timing, like you have a minute or a minute and a half or whatever it is to say your piece, and then you have something more to you have a clear stop, like a klaxon horn goes off or something, and you turn off their microphone, you know, so that people within 10 seconds of the horn or something like that. I mean, so you flat out stop them and then let the other person talk, and so that people get equal time and we don't have a lot of crosstalk, which is a big problem. Half the time you couldn't hear what either one of them was saying unless you're paying ultra close attention to one or the other. But anyhow, at least I guess some people think that's a preview of what might end up being the candidate. Although everybody on the Trump team seems to, obviously they've got the lead in the polls and they're going to win the primaries. The question is, what do you do when the verdicts come down? And that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Very scary, I think, personally. But so anyway, I'll be wrapping this one up quickly here, and of course, I will also post this on Rumble, and I ask anybody that's really wants to follow me to also follow me on Rumble if you're on Rumble. It's that Corrality 452, just like here, and that way I'll have a backup channel, because you never know. Someday the YouTube might get fed up with me or something. I hope not. And we'll of course, the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below, and I most frequently post other comments on X as I have ideas as the days go by. So until next time.